Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, March 24th. So, in today's in today's live stream, what I'll be doing today, going over a recap of yesterday's picks, talking about how they turned out, and going over to the injuries in play for tonight's slate. It is a 10-game main slate overall. So, quite a bit bigger slate than we've seen pretty much most of the week besides Wednesday. Going to be talking through some of those injuries, kind of the ones that could factor in for tonight's slate overall, and then go over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks for today. But before we get into it, if anybody does have any questions throughout the live stream, feel free to leave in the live chat if you're watching live or down in the comments if you are watching on replay, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific so I can just help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. But without further ado, we'll get started with a recap of yesterday's picks. On the DraftKings side, we have point guard Cole Anthony, $5,600, looking for 28 points down. He got a 32.5, so he ended up being a hit yesterday. At shooting guard, went with Donovan Mitchell at $8,400. Pretty good price down spot for him overall. Was looking for 42 points down, got to 43, so he was a hit as well. And small forward is ultimately where I switched over to RJ Barrett, especially with the news or where it was looking like Jalen Brunson was not going to play. Typically in the games this season, when Jalen Brunson has not played, RJ Barrett has played very well. Fortunately, it was not the case yesterday. 3 for 12 shooting. I think he had like 5 turnovers too. Just not a very efficient day for him overall. So unfortunately, that was the case. But he got to 14.5 points there. We were looking for 30 out of him, so he was a miss. Then at power forward, we had Kawhi Leonard at at $9,900, looking for 49, 50 points down, got to 57. So he was a good hit yesterday as well. Thought he'd be one of the top scorers overall. Obviously, Brandon Ingram ended up ultimately outscoring him, but was still very much up there. If you were able to play both together, he had a pretty solid line. If you could mix in some other value as well. And then last but not least at center, we have Mitchell Robinson, $4,600, looking for 23 points down. He got 24, so he was a hit as well. So 4 out of 5 in terms of hits on the DraftKings side yesterday. The one lone miss was RJ Barrett, who unfortunately was not very efficient yesterday. But if you went with the score 5, he had some other decent plays, had a pretty good chance of cashing yesterday. Then on the FanDuel side, we had Cole Anthony. Once again, he was $6,200 over there, so a little bit more expensive. Looking for 31 points down, got to 31.7, so he was a hit on FanDuel as well. At shooting guard, we went with RJ Barrett at $6,400. Was looking for 32 points down. In my video yesterday, I did mention that there was a chance that Jalen Brunson could sit on the back-to-back. That ended up ultimately being the case, as we mentioned, but looking for 32 points out. RJ Barrett got 11.9. 3 for 12 shooting, 5 turnovers, very detrimental on the FanDuel side yesterday. At small forward, we went with Brandon Ingram, though, $8,700. Looking for 43, 44 points down, got to 61.2. So he was a very, very good hit on yesterday's slate. At power forward, once again, we had Kawhi Leonard at $5,800, at $10,000, looking for 50 points on him, got to 58.2. So he was a hit as well. And then last but not least, at the center position, we went Nick Richards, kind of the safe play yesterday. Looking for 28, 29 points on him, got 26.3. Technically, he was a miss, but he still was not anybody that really killed your team overall yesterday. So pretty solid on the FanDuel side, minus RJ Barrett as well. If you went with some other decent plays, you cashed pretty easily on yesterday's slate as well. But with that being said, we're going to get off of here. We're going to move over to the injuries in play for tonight's slate. Once again, it is a 10-game main slate. Excuse me. Still fighting off a little bit of stuff in my throat. Obviously, my voice was gone for a couple days, so bear with me here. I might have to take a couple drinks here and there as well, but still coughing up a little bit of crap every once in a while too as well. You guys probably don't want to hear too much about that though. But we do have 2 games starting right at 7 o'clock tonight for the Pacers. Chris Duarte and Tyrese Halliburton are both listed as questionable at this point in time. Both have missed multiple games at this point in time. Chris Duarte's 3 or 4 games they've missed. Halliburton's been like 7. I really don't expect either one to play tonight. If one of them does play, it's probably more likely Duarte. Not much incentive to play Halliburton at this point in time for the Pacers, being their star player, and they're not really playing for anything at this point in time. Then on the Boston Celtics side, Gallinari is still out once again. Peyton Pritchard listed as doubtful, so no real changes here at this point in time. San Antonio Spurs have been quite the interesting team as of late, but this is kind of what we have for tonight's game. Jeremy Sohan, Romeo Langford, and Kem Birch all listed as out. Devin Vassell, Zach Collins, both listed as questionable. I do expect both of them to end up playing today, but if something does change throughout the day, I will leave an update down in the comments. And then we have Doug McDermott, Trey Jones, Kellen Johnson, and Devontae Graham all listed as probable to play tonight. So just going to assume a pretty healthy Spurs team at this point in time, minus Jeremy Sohan, essentially. Then on the Wizards side, we have Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma, both listed as out. Bradley Beal Bradley Beal missed the most recent game with a knee injury. We saw the starting lineup: Monte Morris, Corey Kispert, Denny Advia, Kristaps Porzingis, and Daniel Gafford. The guys that I'm going to be most interested in taking shots on tonight probably going to be Denny Advia and Kristaps Porzingis from this Wizards team overall. Then we move over to the Pistons, who are without Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, Hamidou Diallo, Rodney Magruder, and Isaiah Stewart. And then we have Isaiah Livers listed as probable to play. Looks like Jalen Durant is available for this game. I believe he missed their most recent game, though. So that is something else to watch out for. Pistons, their price tags are all coming up pretty well at this point in time. If you want to take some shots in GPPs and guys like Killian Hayes, Jaden Ivey, James Wiseman, or Marvin Bagley, go right ahead. But not too much value to be had there on tonight's slate overall. For the Toronto Raptors on the opposite side, Delano Blanton is listed as out once again. Joe Wieskamp, who doesn't really play at this point in time, is listed as questionable, so we're not too worried about him. Then we have Gary Trent, Scotty Barnes, and Precious Achiuwa, all listed as questionable. All did not participate in practice yesterday, so there's probably a pretty good chance that they all end up missing today. Obviously, we'll have to pay some attention to the news that comes out throughout the day, and if we get any news, especially with their shoot-around earlier on in the day as well. But, if Barnes misses once again, probably see Will Barton in the starting lineup. If Precious Achiuwa is not available off the bench, Chris Boucher could be an interesting GPV play, but he is a little bit more expensive on tonight's slate as well. Then we move down to the Houston Rockets, who initially, when I was looking at things today, had Jae'Sean Tate ruled out, but now he's technically listed as questionable. We'll see if he ends up playing tonight or not. But obviously, just, a bench role player for them. They're playing their starters pretty big minutes at this point in time, so not too worried about him or anybody else really off their bench at this point in time. The only guy that really matters off the bench occasionally is Tari Eason, and that's usually when he gets extended minutes, but it's usually when somebody else is out as well. Then for the Memphis Grizzlies side, we got Steven Adams, Zaire Williams, and Vince Williams all listed out tonight. Obviously, the most recent game we saw John Morant make his return. He came off the bench. He played 24 minutes. He played pretty well in those 24 minutes if he's in the starting lineup once again, or if he's going to be in that starting lineup tonight, if we don't have more of a minutes limit for him. Could have some interest there, mainly on the DraftKings side where he's got the cheaper price tag. I believe FanDuel, he's still like $10,000 or a little over $10,000. So mainly be on the DraftKings side if you're going to play John Morant today overall, but just have to see if he has any type of minutes limit. That's going to be the major thing for him today overall. Then we move down to Charlotte Hornets, who are on the back-to-back. This is going to be a pretty big point of interest. We'll see what injury news comes out throughout the day as well. But at this point in time, we have Cody Martin listed as out. Mark Williams is listed as questionable, but it sounds like he's likely shut down for the rest of the year anyways. So Nick Richards still going to look pretty good in that spot. Terry Rozier left last night's game. He is questionable for tonight. If he doesn't play, obviously the next guy up would be Dennis Smith Jr., but he left last night's game with an illness, and he's technically listed as questionable for tonight's game as well. So we might see like a Bryce McDaniels get the start or something like that. But if that's the case, if there is no Terry Rozier, if there is no Dennis Smith Jr., assume that Gordon Hayward's going to get a lot of ball handling duty, and he's going to look really good tonight if that's the case, because his usage rate will be up, his assist rate will be up. And if that's kind of the case, maybe we can see some Gordon Hayward assist props early on today. Maybe they look pretty good. If you're going over Prize Picks, I'll throw out my code Tuesday since we're kind of talking about some props. But, if you first sign up over at Prize Picks, you can get 100% first match deposit up to $100. Helps you out a little bit, helps me out a little bit if you use this code. But that could be one to look at for later today. Obviously, I'll try to get some Prize Picks out later this afternoon over on my Twitter at CoachCraigSports. Try to post them up down in the comments down here on YouTube as well, though. And then last but not least, Kelly Oubre is also listed as questionable at this point in time. So a lot that we're kind of looking at for the Charlotte's team. Hopefully you get some news sooner rather than later for tonight's game as well. And then for the Dallas Mavericks, we got Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kyrie Irving both listed as questionable. I believe Kyrie missed the last game, and then Tim Hardaway did as well. Tim Hardaway's dealing with an illness. Kyrie Irving is with that foot injury. We'll just monitor the news on that throughout the day. Can't really say too much otherwise at this point in time. Moving over to the Milwaukee Bucks, we have Jay Crowder, Goran Dragic, Myers Leonard, and Chris Middleton all out tonight. Chris Middleton is sitting out the first half of the back-to-back, so that could open up the possibility for somebody like Giannis to sit tomorrow if you guys are playing on tomorrow's slate. But at this point time, looking at today's slate, there is no Chris Middleton tonight. Going to open up some value, whether it's a Pat Connaughton, a Grayson Allen, a Joe Ingles, somebody like that, especially with no Jay Crowder in the rotation as well. And then for the Utah Jazz, we have Colin Sexton, Laurie Markkanen, Rudy Gay, and Jordan Clarkson all listed as out. And then we have Jazang listed as questionable today. He typically doesn't make a big difference, but he's been playing some minutes as of late. So he is somebody that could have at the very least, but not a major factor for DFS purposes. So there could be some value on this team overall. A lot of these guys are priced up pretty reasonably at this point in time, but we can look at some Taylor Horn-Tucker. We can look at Ochai Agbaji, who's playing bigger minutes and taking more shots all of a sudden. And then we have Fontecchio that's been in the starting lineup in these situations. So there is opportunities there. None of these guys really stand out for perspective. Taylor Horn-Tucker is probably the biggest one on FanDuel since he actually came down quite a bit in price over there. Then we move down to the Philadelphia 76ers, which could be a potentially big value spot on tonight's slate. Typically, we don't get the 76ers news till right before tip-off, though, so good luck playing this one out tonight. But we have Jalen McDaniels. He's been dealing with an illness for a while, or not an illness, an injury for a while. Not too worried about him. Not anybody that we're playing to DFS purposes anyways. James Harden missed the most recent game. He is listed as questionable tonight. I do assume that he does end up playing, but if he doesn't play, then Tyrese Maxey is going to look really good. And then we have Joel Embiid, who's dealing with a calf injury, listed as questionable to play. If he's unable to go tonight, Paul Reed's going to look pretty good overall. Let's see, Millie on the one TVs saying do the spread. So mainly I'm focused on the DFS perspective here more than the betting, but we can run through that quickly once I get down to the injury parts as well. Or go after I get done with the injury part, excuse me. And then on the Golden State side, we have Andre Iguodala, Ty Jerome, Gary Payton II, and Andrew Wiggins all listed out once again. So pretty standard rotation for this Golden State Warriors team at this point in time. And they're all pretty reasonably priced on DraftKings tonight. So if you really want to take some shot on some Golden State guys, do not have a problem with that whatsoever. And then for the Chicago Bulls, we have Javonte Green listed as probable to play. Alex Caruso is listed as questionable. Technically, he went through like shoot around last time, didn't feel good enough to play. We'll see if he's good to go tonight or not. But could open up some value, whether it's Kobe White, Patrick Williams, somebody else like that. And then DeMar DeRozan listed as questionable to play. He's dealing with a quad injury, which bugged him a little bit earlier this season. If he's unable to go, Zach LaVine, Nikolai Vucevic are going to both look better. And, Patrick Williams probably ends up getting the start as well. And then we get over to the Portland side. Baji, Grant, Simons, and Winslow are all out once again. Joseph Nurkic is listed as questionable with right knee soreness, I believe, at this point in time. If he plays, you can play him, but there is some risk there as well. If he doesn't play, Drew Eubanks is going to be a pretty interesting option. It's kind of a pay down spot on DraftKings. Obviously, you probably already have Trendon Watford in that starting lineup either way at the power forward position. So both those guys could see pretty big minutes and should be out there on the court more times than not. Nazir Little list is questionable, but he's dealing with a concussion. I do not expect him to play tonight. And then Damian Lillard listed is probable. For the Phoenix Suns, we have DeAndre Ayton and Kevin Durant, both listed out once again, so no real changes here. If you really want to go to the center on Phoenix, you can do it, but I don't think you have to at this point in time. And then Kevin Huerter is listed as questionable for the Kings. Supposedly was able to do some practice yesterday. We'll see if he's back tonight or not. Since we did have Millie, the one on TV, come up here saying something about do the spreads real quick. I'm not giving betting a voice here, but for the Pacers and the Celtics, the Pacers are 12-point favorites. 134.5 is what's listed here as the over-under for the total of the game. So that's pretty good line there. And then Washington is 7.5-point favorites over the Spurs tonight, 228 point total combined there. And then we have Detroit Pistons and the Raptors. The Raptors are 14.5-point favorites, so quite a bit there, 223.5 over-under. And then we have, moving down to the Rockets, the Grizzlies are 13-point favorites, 233.5 over-under. Then we move down to the Mavericks being favorites against the Hornets. That could be an interesting one, depending on the injury news overall. 227.5 over/under on that game. The Bucks are 9-point favorites over the Jazz. They have a pretty good chance of covering that, though. 236.5 over/under for that game total. Moving down to 76ers and the Warriors. Warriors are 5.5-point favorites. That's a line that could move very much throughout the day, though, especially depending on the 76ers news. 235.5 over under. The Bulls are 2.5-point favorites over Portland, which is kind of an interesting one there. 226.5 over under point for that game. And then Sacramento is actually 3.5-point favorites over the Suns, 239 over under. And apparently, I forgot to do the Thunder and the Lakers game, but the Thunder appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time. They did announce that Povashevsky will be available to play tonight. And then for the Lakers side, we have Anthony Davis listed as probable, Mo Bamba and LeBron James listed as out. So no real changes here for this game at this point in time. Lakers are 5.5-point favorites, 232.5 point total there. That would be one to maybe bet on Oklahoma City too, just depending on the news that we do get, since they are on the back-to-back as well. If you are looking at it from a betting perspective, but mainly looking at this from the injury perspective, once again, I'll do a quick little recap in terms of injuries, the ones that we're watching out for the most today. We'll look for the back-to-back news for the Oklahoma City Thunder, if somebody randomly gets ruled out there or anything like that. Kevin Huerter, if he plays or not, obviously he did practice yesterday. Joseph Nurkic will be a pretty big one. Alex Cruz and DeMar DeRozan will have a pretty big impact. The Philadelphia 76ers news, especially Joel Embiid. And then we move up Tim Hardaway, Kyrie Irving. They'll have a little bit of impact, but not changing up the slate too much overall. The Charlotte Hornets will have a pretty big impact and is out. I'm not too worried about Jayshawn Tate. We'll watch the Raptors news, but I don't expect too much to matter either way. Zach Collins, Devin Vassell will be one to watch as well. And then if Halliburton ends up playing or not, essentially, in terms of injuries at this point in time. Let's see. Official 5,000. So this must have been do the over and under. So I just went through that real quick too. I'm not sure if you missed that or not, but if you did, probably go back a couple seconds and can find that as well. So we're going to get out of this at this point in time for the injuries. We'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about the core picks for today, at least early on. And today, obviously, there is news that will change probably throughout the day as well. But at the point guard position, we're going to go with Marcus Smart, $5,500, looking for 27, 28 points out. He's averaged about 29 so far in the season. They're going against the Pacers tonight. It's a pace-up spot. The Celtics were one of the higher favorite teams on tonight's slate overall, but do like Marcus Smart quite a bit. Been a little bit more consistent as of late, even though there was that down stretch in there prior to that. Got him projected for 28, 29 points tonight, looking like a pretty safe play overall. At shooting guard, we have Pat Connaughton. He's $4,000. Should be in that starting lineup for the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. Looking for 20 points out. Currently, I'm projected for 21 to 22. A little bit of a pace-up spot against Utah as well. There could be more opportunities out there just depending on how many minutes he plays overall. Not the greatest fantasy point per minute guy, but, if he's out there playing 30 minutes, he's still going to look really good. And then if he gets a couple of shots, a couple of rebounds, steals, blocks, something like that, he's going to be a little bit more impactful overall than we would see on some other slates. At small forward, I went with Gordon Hayward today. He's $5,700, looking for 28, 29 points out of him. There's potentially no Terry Rozier tonight. There's potentially no Dennis Smith Jr., so they don't really have a point guard at that point in time. Usage rate for Gordon Hayward, usage rate or assist rate for Gordon Hayward, both would kind of be through the roof at that point in time. It's an okay matchup against Dallas, not the greatest defensive team in the world, but it is a pace down spot. So that will kind of neutralize since Charlotte plays pretty fast and Dallas plays pretty slow, but Charlotte could also play pretty slow if they're playing out without like a Terry Rozier or Dennis Smith Jr. to run the offense through as well. But would expect Gordon Hayward to play pretty big minutes and have a pretty big role for this team overall, unless they do get like blown out or something like that. But currently I'm projected for, 29, 30 points at this point in time. Obviously, if those two guys are out, probably looking more towards 32 tonight. Then at power forward, we have Giannis. He's $11,500. Pretty decent price down spot for him at this point, if we're being completely honest. Going against the Utah Jazz, pace up spot once again. 57, 58 points is what we're looking for out of him. Currently, I'm projected for 59, 60 tonight. Definitely has a ton of upside for more, especially if this game remains competitive. And then last but not least at center, going to Nick Richards. Talked a little bit about him yesterday, but pretty safe matchup for him overall today. Not probably going to get foul trouble against Dallas. $5,100, looking for 25, 26 points out. Currently, I'm projected for about 26 points tonight. Pretty good rebounding spot going against Dallas as well. So it's going to be a game that he's not getting in foul trouble, getting a handful of rebounds. I'm going to pay off at his price tag more times than not. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $18,200 remaining, just under $6,100 per player. So a little bit of room to spend up. If you want to pay up for somebody else, you could probably do it and then kind of pay down at some other positions. Obviously, there is some other values that could potentially open up throughout the day. So definitely make sure you're checking out down in the comments for that, as well as my updated core, which will be out about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock. But with that being said, we're going to get off of DraftKings at this point in time. We're going to move over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So pulling up FanDuel here real quick. Obviously, computer takes a little bit time to load every once in a while. But at the point guard position, we have Marcus Smart once again. He's $5,600, so he's $100 more than he is over on the on the DraftKings side. Excuse me. So we're looking for 28 points down. Marcus Smart, he's pretty safe at this point in time. He's averaging just over 28 points on the season. Currently, I'm projected for 29 on the FanDuel side. Gets a little bit extra for steals and blocks over there. So a little bit better FanDuel player, offers some upside. As long as this game's not a blowout, he's going to look pretty safe and reasonable at this point in time. Then at shooting guard, we're going Talen Horton-Tucker against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. There is no Jordan Clarkson. There is no Colin Sexton. There is no Lauri Markkanen left on this team. So somebody has to take shots for this Utah Jazz team. Maybe it's Ochai Agbaji. Maybe it's Talen Horton-Tucker. Maybe it's somebody else that they have, but they don't have many options left at this point in time. He's running the first unit. He's out there doing pretty much whatever he wants at this point in time. So the usage rate should definitely be there once again. He's in a price down spot, especially on the FanDuel side at $5,500. Looking for 27, 28 points out of him tonight. Currently having projected for 29. Definitely has some upside for more, as we've seen in recent games as well. But would that be, excuse me. Then moving down to small forward, we have Pat Connaughton once again. Not a super exciting play, but just a good value. Guy that's not going to cost you a lot of money, $4,200. Looking for 21 points out of him. Currently, I'm projected for that 21-22 tonight. No Chris Middleton, so he should be out there getting the start, playing a good chunk of minutes. If he runs into some extra points, some 3-pointers going down, a steal, block, or rebound, something like that, he's going to look even better tonight as well. Then at power forward, we have Giannis once again. He is a little bit more expensive on the FanDuel side, but only $200 more. He's still looking for about the same projection. Still haven't projected for 59.60 tonight. Definitely has some upside for more, especially if this game does not end up being a blowout against the Jazz tonight, which is a possibility, but still like Giannis quite a bit. And then last but not least, at the center position, we have Kristaps Porzingis. Probably not like the most enticing play. I get it, but there is no Bradley Beal tonight. There is no Kyle Kuzma. Going against the Spurs, pace-up matchup. Spurs aren't very good. Wizards aren't very good without those two guys as well. And he's pretty much going to be able to take any shot he wants to get, a couple of rebounds. If he can sneak a couple of blocks in there too against San Antonio, biggest thing for him lately has been staying out of foul trouble. If he does that tonight, it's going to look pretty good overall once again. And just that upside, that ceiling that he does offer without Bradley Beal, without Kyle Kuzma, it's potentially 50 points. You're looking for 44, 45 out of him tonight. Currently, I'm projected for 44. But if you get that 55, or if you get that 50-point upside against the Spurs tonight, going to definitely be something we want in our lineups overall, especially on FanDuel, where there's not quite as much value as there is over on the DraftKings side. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players on the FanDuel side tonight, you have $24,100 remaining, just over $6,000 per player. You can pay up probably for one other player if you really want to, then kind of pay down for some other options. If you want to take a little bit more balanced approach, that's definitely fine as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I have in terms of core picks for today, March 24th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I have for this video in terms of today for this video, for this live stream. Definitely do appreciate everybody that did take the time out of their day to tune in. Once again, I'll be having all the injuries news down in the comments throughout the day. Get to as many starting lineups as I can get to tonight for you guys as well. Updated core will be out about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock. And then if there's any additional changes to that throughout the night, I'll try to comment down below that pinned comment of the update core as well. But just wants to thank you guys once again for tuning in. If you're brand new to my channel, I haven't already checked it out before, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS, primarily XFL DFS as well as NBA DFS at this point in time. XFL DFS stream will be going on later today. Got some other potential NFL draft prospect got some other potential NFL draft prospect interviews in the works as well. So excited to announce that when they do come, if that's something you're interested in as well. Obviously for DFS, we're going to be having MLB and USFL DFS MLB will start at the end of next week. USFL DFS is starting, I believe, the 15th is the first week for the USFL. So probably break that down a little bit like I did for the XFL going into the season. Look at the teams, the coaching staffs, and everything else like that, especially in terms of the returning players, the new players for every team and everything like that. And then take a first look at the initial slate as well once we get into that week as well. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, definitely be sure that you are subscribed, that you have the notification bell turned on so you never miss a beat in terms of the content that I am putting out. Once again, if you are brand new to Prize Picks, I'm going to throw that banner up once again. Use my promo code. You get 100% first match deposit up to $100. Helps you out a little bit, helps me out a little bit as well. Prize Picks, you can definitely parlay a bunch of different sports, whether it's NBA, MLB, NHL, CS. They even got esports. They got some stuff for soccer. Obviously, once NFL's around, XFL, USFL, pretty much any sport that you want to bet on, you can parlay it together. And with the flex play option, you don't have to get every single one right to make a profit at the same time as well. So definitely a great site. Definitely one that I would recommend. Probably get some NBA Prize Pick plays out later today on my Twitter over at CoachCraigSports. So definitely be sure you're following me over there as well. And then I'll try to get that down in the comments as well here on YouTube as well. But definitely do appreciate everybody that did take the time out of their day to tune in for this live stream. Whether you're watching live or on replay, definitely means a lot to me. And I hope that each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.